as to why you don't have a hard drive and a laptop inside that room.
Maybe he was aware of us being at the door and afraid of us breaching the doorway. Because we know through his computer, he did research police tactics.
You don't have a hard drive and a laptop inside that room.
Because we know through his computer, he did research police tactics.
You don't have a hard drive.
Because we know through his computer.
You don't have a hard drive.
His computer.
Hard drive.
His computer.
You don't have a hard drive and a laptop inside that room.
Why would investigators allow Jesus Campos, who again was the sole eyewitness that we know of to the shooting from within the building, to leave the country shortly after while the investigation is still going on? I'm baffled by that.
It's very strange, Tucker. I mean, think about it. There's really no guarantee he's ever going to return. He's not under arrest. He's not under any court order to stay in the country. I mean, they're limited legally what they can do to order him to stay, but it's just confusing. I mean, even I was thinking about this before we went on this segment here, and I'm thinking even the most innocent of explanations, right? I mean, he's a witness and a victim of one of the most horrific crimes in American history. Obviously, incredibly psychologically traumatizing. An innocent explanation, maybe he has family down there he's visiting, he needed some time. But to go to Mexico right after the crime when you are the sole eyewitness to potentially the crime of the century, and as you brought up in the segment, you have a pretty significant injury, a .556 or .223 round to the leg, is really beyond perplexing. There's
Yes.
no convenient explanation for it.
Jesus Campos emerged publicly for the first time this week. He was the only eyewitness, certainly the first, to the shooting at that hotel from within the building. He gave an interview on the Ellen DeGeneres show, but bizarrely, the whole interview apparently was part of a marketing push by MGM, which owns Mandalay Bay and, among other things, operates several Ellen-themed slot machines. Watch.
I have a brand new slot machine. It is from IGT, and it's got new bonuses that are so much fun. I was in Vegas, and I went to the MGM Grand, and I surprised some people who were playing my machine, and here's what happened. Wild! Come on! Stay your
So now the Daily Mail is reporting that MGM, the company makes those slot machines, insisted that Campos appear only on Ellen DeGeneres' show, fearing that his responses to any other interviewers, real ones, could alter the public perception of the shooting timeline and affect their legal position. For weeks, we've been asking basic questions about what happened, most of which remain unanswered tonight. What was Paddock's motive for the shooting? How did authorities possibly allow his house to be burgled? Why was Paddock's computer hard drive missing, and why did it take so long for us to learn it was missing? Why did security guard Jesus Campos travel to Mexico just days after the shooting, despite being a key witness, and why did authorities refuse to talk about that? Why have Campos' subsequent appearances been so closely managed by his employer, MGM? And more than anything, what's the actual timeline of this shooting? What happened and when did it happen? And why in the world is it still so hard to get a straight answer about that? Did they set up the Ellen interview, his employer?
I don't know who set up the Ellen interview. We had 5 interviews set up prior to that. I know that when I was in town, Ellen's interviewer, the person that schedules the interviews, called Mr. Campos on his cell phone. He handed me the phone. I took the phone, responded to her that she could call to arrange an interview if she wanted, and then we didn't hear from her. And of course, after that, Mr. Campos was taken to a clinic on Thursday.
But why did he skip the interviews?
I can't speak for Mr. Campos on that. I've had no contact with him since that time, and you know, I think it's Mr. Campos' story, and I think he has a right to tell it on his own. But you know, as far as we were concerned, we were prepared to do the interviews. We were hours away, 5 hours away from actually doing the first interview.
And then he disappeared with that explanation. Do you know where he went?
We received a text saying that we are taking him to the quick care.
And who's we? Who was taking him?
There was, when we left the room, we were having a meeting with 3 upper-level MGM management people. And when we left the room that we were in, or left the living room, it was Mr. Campos, one other security officer, a fellow member of the union, and then there was a corporate security officer.
Yeah, of course there was. MGM's in charge, clearly. Well, to these long-standing questions, we can add a few more tonight. Why did we only learn today from the Clark County Sheriff that Paddock's girlfriend could be withholding important information in this case? If in fact she knows more than she's saying, why isn't she being interviewed right now? We also discovered today that a police officer accidentally fired his gun in Paddock's hotel suite on the night of the shooting. How did that happen? Guns don't often accidentally discharge, they're accidentally fired. What exactly were the circumstances of this firing? Now, we're not trying to push a wild conspiracy theory here. It's possible the Trilateral Commission was involved, but the more likely and, in fact, far more terrifying explanation is incompetence. The people running this case don't really know what they're doing. You hate to conclude something like that, but it's becoming hard not to, especially when you consider the Las Vegas case in its larger context. This is not the only federal investigation that has shaken public confidence recently. Consider some of the others. The FBI had Omar Mateen under surveillance for 10 months, and yet somehow didn't hinder his planning or execution of the Pulse nightclub massacre. The FBI was also apparently aware of New York City killer Sayfullo Saipov, Fort Hood shooter Nidal Hassan, Boston bomber Tamerlan Tsarnaev, and a list of other killers, but failed to stop any of their attacks.
Because we know through his computer, he did research police tactics.
You don't have a hard drive.
Because we know through his computer.
You don't have a hard drive.
We know through his computer.
You don't have a hard drive and a laptop inside. You don't have a hard drive and a laptop inside. You don't have a hard drive and a laptop inside.